Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Miss Ink Stamps video. Today we're going to be using the Perfect Match stamp set. I'm going to pair that up with a couple of stencils. We have our Dandelion Dreams and we have our Jitters stencil. We're going to make a fun background and in the end a fun and funny birthday card. All right, so I have a piece of watercolor cardstock that I've cut down to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. That is the full front of an A2 size card. I'm going to bring in my Tonic platform, tack that down with a little bit of Post-it tape, and then put our stencil over the top and hold those down, or hold that down with some magnets. I want this Dandelion Dreams to be fairly subtle in the background, so I have chosen some tea dye ink, and I'm going to blend that on that background very lightly. So I'm not trying to press too hard, just want some color down there just to add a little bit of a base. And then I'll pull that away and you can see just how light that is. It's funny, when you do the stencils, the color's always darker than what you think it is. Like, it looks like you didn't add a lot of color, and that's actually darker than what I thought. I thought it was even more subtle than that, but I am happy with that. And now we're going to bring in our Jitters stencil. I'm going to do this going vertical, but this is a delicate stencil and I want to make sure that that kind of stays in place. So I'm going to take some pixie spray, take this outside, spray that all over that back of the stencil. That's going to just give it a little bit of stickiness, a little bit of tack, so that way it'll sort of stay in place. But I still, when I'm putting my color on, want to make sure that I go in an up and down motion, since that is the way the stencil is. You could probably do a little bit of circular motion, but just to be safe, I'm only going to go up and down. That first color is Fired Brick, and I'm going to leave that out because I'm going to need it because we're going to do some ink blending. The next color is Wild Honey, and just blending that into our Fired Brick. I'll bring that Fired Brick back in, kind of make that color a little bit darker down there at the bottom and blend into our Wild Honey. And then the next color I'm going to bring in is actually some Squeezed Lemonade. It's funny, that looks like a candy corn right now, but once I bring in our Squeezed Lemonade, that will kind of make that a little more subtle. I don't want it to go all the way to the top. I want there to still be a little bit of that white on there. I really want it to be kind of ombre and gradual. So once I pull this stencil away, you're going to see it looks pretty cool, but we're not done with it yet. So I like that. I love how we have that nice subtle Dandelion Dream on the background. I'm going to bring in the tea dye again. We're going to blend that on the edges to frame up our piece a little bit, since I don't plan on cutting this down. This is going to be the full front of that card. And it's a little darker at the bottom. I like that. We're going to bring in some more tea dye, but we're going to try and splatter it, and we're even going to do a little smushing on there. After I add some water to our background, I want to just add some splatters, which is very subtle. You can't see it a whole lot. In the end, I think all the things that I'm doing just end up making for a nice background, but oftentimes there's a lot of steps just to get there. So like I said, tea dye, splatter some water on there. I'm going to squish my piece right into it, splatter some of that, squish, splatter, almost to make it look like, since that stamp set is called Perfect Match, like we tried to get some of that out with some water. I think it'll all come together pretty nicely in the end. Okay, so you didn't see me do the stamping and you didn't see me do that first color, but I stamped all of my images from Perfect Match onto some Express It cardstock using blackout ink. I'm going to be honest, I did not do the best job of putting the caps up on the screen in view. I put them up on my mat, but I ended up putting them up too high most of the time. And these are the Olo markers, so these are alcohol markers, but these are the newer Olos. I've been playing a lot with these and loving them and mixing them with my other alcohol markers, my Copics, and loving the results of that as well. So just know any alcohol markers that you have, you can blend those together on your piece to make other colors or, you know, whatnot. Some alcohol markers tend to blend better than others, and they usually work best when they're with their own, you know, like Olo with Olo, Copic with Copic, so on and so forth. But it is doable, and I have been doing it with these. So bringing in some darker shades, to be honest with you, I was not sure what colors I was supposed to do these. If this is a little fireman, I am not up to date on all of the, I think they're mostly yellow, but I had to add some of that red in there. I just had to. And we've got our R1.8 for the tops of our matches and the inside of our matchbook. And then we'll bring in a lot of these colors. I tend to like to stick to the same kind of color palette, not like get a bunch of different colors. I like to pick about 3 colors, bring all those in and then do all of my elements with that. One, it's not so overwhelming for me when I'm coloring. And two, I feel like it just ties everything together, if that makes sense. So you'll notice that most of my cards, I tend to just pick about 3 colors and go with variations of those colors. And in this case, it was reds, yellows, and some grays and blacks. Mostly grays, obviously. And even our candles, when I get to those, our candles are going to mostly just stick with the reds. Well, yeah, the reds. Finish up our matchbook, trying to make that kind of just simple back there. Add a little shadowing and shading to it. And then here for our candles, we'll bring in the red. And that's that 1.5. I'm going to make it easy on myself and just color the whole candle. This next one is the 1.7. Do that on the stripe. Obviously, you could go crazy and do any colors that you wanted. And then I'm just going to go right over all those circles as well. And then I'll just bring in a white gel pen to cover or to color the circles in. For me, that was just easiest. Call it lazy. That's fine. Bringing that 1.7 on the edges because I didn't do any shadowing there. So I'm going to put it on the edge to add a little depth there. And then this next darker color, which is the 1.8. And then I'll fussy cut everything out. And now we can move on to stamping our sentiment. I've got some black sentiment stock, stamping out my sentiments onto that using some juicy embossing ink. You didn't see me use the anti-static powder tool, but I did do that. And then I'm covering that with some white detail embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And then we'll put this in our guillotine trimmer and we can trim out each of our sentiments. One of them is going to go on the outside and one will go on the inside. For the one on the outside, we're going to use some foam squares. We'll put those on the back of our little fireman as well. Pull off all the release paper and then we can start sticking our images down. Kind of trying to center that up a little bit. I'm going to bring in a T-ruler to not only try and keep the sentiment straight, but also center it. So I'm using the inch marks and stuff to try and center that up the best I can. And once I'm happy, we'll put that down. And then we can get our base, which measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and is scored at 4 1/4. And then our last bits will go on the inside. My glue bottle is a little bit clogged, but super easy to fix. Just put your needle in there a few times and glue will run free again. I love that. You're still hot. It just comes in flashes now. These sentiments are so fun. I love that about Miss Ink stamps. They've got so many fun, punny sentiments that are just like hilarious sentiments. You cannot help but smile when you read so many of them. I think those are my favorite sets that Miss Ink Stamps carries, are these punny ones. All right, that's our inside. We'll attach down our panel to our base using that same liquid glue. And then I decide I want to bring in some little gems. I'll have these linked down below, but these are like more of the orange. I wanted to focus more on that middle color that I had. And so I'm just going to be pretty liberal putting a bunch of those down, all different sizes. And then we'll glue them down with our liquid glue. And when everything is attached, that's going to finish off our card for today. So I hope you love it as much as I did and as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like this video, hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Miss Ink Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by and we'll see you soon.